What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. I put a ton of time into Lifeweaver, into the behind-the-scenes pugs with other content creators, really limit testing this character to get comfortable. I feel he's the type of hero that was made for me. If you're more of a gamesense style player, you're going to love this character. He's got a lot of complexity to his kit and a lot of buttons to manage, so let's start it off with the most simple, fundamental aspect of supporting healing your team. Lifeweaver's a character that always wants to be holding safe positioning, ideally around cover, and a benefit to his healing, although it is very weak in terms of pure stats, is that it's very easy to hit. And you're going to put yourself at low risk to quickly jiggle peek out from cover in order to heal a teammate. While you can heal for under 65, throwing a flower out, that's such a little amount with so much downtime between shots. I suggest that you wait until the full 65 amount is charged up and manage your teammates' health bars by waiting for them to take a little bit of damage, or try to time it so that your healing flower lands on them as they're going to have some HP removed from being in a duel. At the time of recording, Aaron Keller did tweet out that Lifeweaver is going to be getting a launch day buff to his heal. The full charge rate is going to go down to 1 full second with a little bit of a delay while you fire a certain shot. So it isn't quite 65 heals a second. However, you can make your healing more constant with ML7's healing technique. Alternatively, ML7 tends to spam out his healing flowers. The benefit to spamming your heal flowers is you'll give your teammate a constant stream of healing. They'll receive it faster. It'll be a smaller burst, but if you're monitoring their health, particularly knowing what matchup they're in, you might need them to be past a certain breakpoint and panic heal inefficiently using flowers for low amounts of healing just to try to give them a constant stream to keep their health outside of the lethal breakpoints. Because sometimes waiting for a full blossom to charge will take too long and they're going to be eliminated and you won't have a target to heal. However, what you'll notice in his gameplay, it's because he spends a lot of time pressuring with the Needler, looking for damage and duel opportunities. Overwatch has a mechanic where when you holster your secondary weapon long enough, you're going to auto reload it. So that means swapping between the two, even spamming out ammo of both, you're going to sneak in free reloads. However, I will note ML7 in these pugs is a lot higher skill than the players he's playing against. I think it's going to be a bit more difficult if you are accurately placed in the ranked matchmaker to feel that you can easily duel lots of targets, mainly because Lifeweaver's hitbox is so big. Unlike a character like Moira, who very easily throws damage at a lot of opposition, and it's not really until a higher level of skill that players even have the aim usually to handle the duel with her, including the free escape she has. Lifeweaver's a lot easier to track down and hit. So keep that in mind. It is important to note, based on watching ML7's gameplay, that you can become your own support fire machine, weaving in and out of combat the better that you set up your own escapes, which we'll talk about later. The more comfortable you are with the rest of Lifeweaver's kit, the farther you're going to be able to stretch out and utilize his decent damage. But if there isn't good targets for you to take duels with or to spam easy damage onto them without yourself getting shot, I'm going to suggest you adopting more of a defensive, using cover, ranged healer playstyle to save your team as opposed to trying to take up more space on the map yourself, which you'll learn to do the more skilled you get with the character. Keep in mind the healing flower will target the teammate around corners a little bit, but won't go through shields. And in those cases, if say your Genji teammate is inside the middle of a Winston bubble getting zapped down, I'm going to suggest you get him the heck out of there using Life Grip. Now, a lot of the controversy around this character is players afraid that Life Grip is going to be obnoxious to play with. So that's why I'm going to try to help the community get better at utilizing it. I think step one is remembering that your heal targeting is going to be able to heal your teammate through a lot of things. So don't overly rely on Life Grip. Try to heal first. But the scenarios you're trying to look for is matchups that you know the enemy is going to overwhelm your teammate. So let's say my Ashe teammate getting run over by Junker Queen, not only is she going to inflict bleed, but she has high burst damage that I'm not going to be able to heal. So we got to get Ashe off of that duel as quickly as possible, back into position at range where she wants to be. Understanding the matchups of the game and knowing where your teammates are supposed to be positioned is going to take you a lot farther with this character, because you want to be using your resources to position your team where they should be despite their own decision making, right? So your Soldier 76 that wants to rush the front line, you can pull him back to where he'll be more effective, and your tank who's rushing out of your line of sight after he goes in, loses armor health, and does some damage, maybe even getting a kill. That's when you want to pull him back. Not too early when you could still heal them, but when they've overextended and you make the read that it's time for them to regroup with your team. As you're healing your teammates, try to monitor how the duel is going and how it's swaying. As a teammate starts to get critical and you don't think you're going to be able to save them with a heal, try to reposition them to give them those invulnerability frames and a second chance at life. The two types of life grips I'm going to tell you to try to avoid, though, is ones where you're standing in front of, let's say, Ilios well. I just barely am far enough away to not insta-give my Ramatra. Truly limit testing on that one. And another one where my teammate, Aspen, Contenders Pro, knows what she's doing, is actually probably safe in the building, and I'm just not aware of the damage threats to my left. I'm worried they're chasing her off in the room, but they really weren't. So this life grip pulls her into line of sight to get one shot before I can even heal her. So try to maintain knowing where the enemy threats are going to be, and if a teammate's just going to die anyway because you're going to pull them into more damage, just save the pull for another use. Now we'll have some more advanced sections combining all the aspects of Lifeweaver's kit together, but the next section I want to talk about just your own personal survivability, because you're going to notice that Lifeweaver is a character that's incredibly easy to dive. He's got a big hitbox and his movement is very limited. His shift is just okay, so instead what you want to do is set up for Petal escapes. A lot of times in the fight, you're going to need to use your Petal platform to set yourself up in a safe, either high ground position or even as the enemy threats are coming onto you. The benefits of playing up on your own Petal is that you'll get a good vantage point to see your whole team. And while again, Lifeweaver's healing numbers aren't very high, but he gives himself high ground. So oftentimes you're going to be able to be opportunistic and see healing values that you may not have been able to get to as another healer who is more easy to be zoned out. So keep that in mind. While other healers might heal more, you create lines of sight, which means you'll get more uptime and more opportunity to keep healing your team. Again, you'll find this to be more easy the more you understand the matchup knowledge of the game. The characters that cannot jump, it's safe to Petal platform in the middle of the fight. Or as ground pursuers are coming after you, like this clip up against an enemy Ramatra ult, quickly ducking around corner to save myself makes an auto-win ultimate whiff. Now, while I suggest you focus on using the Petal for yourself first and foremost so that you don't die, if you are safe and not catching much heat, or if you already control the map, so it's hard for the enemy to know where you even are anyway, setting up for your teammates to use Petal platform is insane as well. Try to recognize who on your team has low vertical mobility but can gain a big advantage from getting a vantage point. The easy targets are Cassidy, Soldier, Bastion, Ana, and characters like that. Lifting them up to see lines of sight they normally wouldn't be able to see, or to get to high ground that they otherwise would be too expensive for them to get there. Like, yeah, you could use a Symmetra, but this is like having a sim in the support category in many ways. So now they can get those positions all the time, and especially characters like Reinhardt, who maybe would struggle on some dive maps like Dorado or Gibraltar. Now with the Petal platform, you can close the distance from low ground to high ground so quickly that he becomes a lot more viable on those maps. Let's talk about the Tree of Life before we get into the very advanced sections. Keep in mind that using the Needler is actually more effective at farming Tree of Life than just healing. So don't forget, when your team doesn't need healing, to apply DPS pressure with your secondary weapon when possible, if for no other reason than just to farm your ult more efficiently. And getting kills is nice too when you can. The best way to use the Tree of Life is going to be when your team is ready to commit onto the objective. Keep in mind that it does a burst of health, so as they start to take some heat, popping it right on top of them will burst them up again, and then as the brawl continues, the enemy has a really difficult decision of whether to target actual players or pump 1,000 damage into the tree in order to take it out. Either way, remember that your goal is to get value with it over time. So whereas maybe other support ults you want to hold and wait for the right interaction to maximize its value, on this Village Nepal game, as my team starts to get low and we're getting surrounded, I know the enemy is going to start having ults and other things coming online. Understanding when you want to maintain the objective control or when you have to hard commit in order to just cap it yourself, it's important not to wait too long to use the tree, because although the instant cast does give a burst of health, overall its main use is the heal over time. So I'm going to suggest that you deploy it in order order to begin getting use of it earlier rather than later, because it's a very grindy ultimate. And once the tree is erected, your team should know to go fight around it to get the free healing values. And during which time, it can be a good opportunity to pull out the Needler in order to finish off enemy targets, as everyone from your team, including you, can get healing from its effects. All right, guys, now we're going to combine everything together in our advanced section, where we'll see me utilize all the aspects of Lifeweaver's kit. First of all, noting that I'm playing on a corner. This is the type of position Lifeweaver likes, one where he doesn't have to peek the enemy, but he can quickly peek out in order to heal his team. I'm going to set a preemptive flower for my teammate Cassidy to utilize when he feels it's a good time to pop High Noon. I suggest this above and beyond trying to quickly synergize, because your teammate will know when they're comfortable to utilize it, as opposed to throwing the Petal at them and hope they react perfectly. Also, the Petal behind the cart would have been hard for the enemy team to see, and as well be a spot where I could lift my Cassidy up where I can see him to heal him, but also likely to gain a new line of sight for him to target the enemy with. This first life grip that I use in the fight is absolute money, where my Ana is low, so it'll save her from the brink of death, but as well repositions her, a character who likes this position. Keep that in mind as well, because not every character wants to play where you're playing, so try to prioritize life grip on the characters that can utilize the high ground. Getting her back on top keeps her alive so that she can channel an anti-nade onto the cart. The second life grip is a little tricky. I hear the enemy Cassidy pops High Noon, and I save the ball with an invulnerability frame from dying to it. A lot of high-level players in this lobby where our positioning is quite disciplined the whole time. Ball knows to get back onto the objective, but attacking the Cassidy to finish him off, I feel the need. I have to touch it right before the Ramatra caps. I will say, a character like Lifeweaver doesn't have great anti-tank abilities, where he can dodge a lot of ultimates, stay alive, keep other teammates alive. He's not going to be able to help kill Ramatra so much, so that makes this fight quite difficult, so much that the enemy keeps coming back with their ultimates. I reposition to the corner, try to get Ana with me to heal me and save me, but they get their ultimates back and end up winning that fight. But you can see how long we kept the fight going and how much we dodged from the enemy just from managing our abilities quite well. It gets even easier on this next map, where I have a little bit better comp synergy. Characters like Bastion, Cassidy, Reaper that can go in, use their cooldowns, do a lot of easy damage, but then get repositioned with you. As long as you're focusing on power positions on the map, you can offer a ton of stabilization to your team. Cassidy can roll to fan the hammer twice and use Magnade, even though he's getting nerfed in this patch. He still does an insane amount of free damage. And understanding a map like Gibraltar, that this blue box and the high ground in the back are the two important positions that you want your squishies to be holding. So as the fights break out, I either want to manage it myself, retreat myself back there so that I can get my team back there, either using petals to go up myself or to give to them, or life grip in order to quickly get them there. At higher ranks, teammates typically don't venture off into parts of the map where they're not effective, but at most ranks they do. So you can kind of play the commander role and babysit them while they play out in harm's way. You hold the position that is more high tier viable and just keep forcing them into it despite their own decisions. In previous support guides, I've given tips on making sure to just let your teammates die when they're playing too stupid, but Lifeweaver's a character where you can play smart and force them to play smart despite them, getting characters out of harm's way in the moment of trouble. And here on the attack, after we full hold on Gibraltar, ping a Petal platform in order to get a bunch of low ground characters up to the high ground immediately. That's just insane value. You could basically not play these characters effectively on Gibraltar previous to Lifeweaver being added to the game, because normally a dive-centric team would be able to force you off the high ground, and it would take you so long to get back up to it that defenders have a huge advantage. Well, that's still the case, but Lifeweaver holds a lot of that defensive advantage in his hands, where he can get up to the high ground, and whether I'm on defense or attack, I'm trying to control this blue box. And even as my Bastion at the brink of death goes in, gets damage done, it's really difficult for the enemy to find kills anywhere, just by how we're helping the team manage our positioning. As an added bonus, let's take a look at some really complicated team fights that ML7 defends his team on Gibraltar. The fight gets corralled into the back two corners of Gibraltar Streets phase, which should be a big advantage for the attacking team. The Petal High Noon combo gets destroyed by the Genji's blade in the back. They don't get it set up fast enough. But notice how he uses the Tree of Life to try to create a physical barrier to protect himself, but the instant burst of health helps him survive and anchor in the back, absorbing the brunt of the dry blade. The enemy's support, probably hearing that ML was low from a callout, attempts the duel, but the Tree of Life bursts him again, making this an easy duel for him to win in a hallway. I'll say the Needler is most effective at this kind of range. But the fight's not over. There could still be a limbs to be had. Comes back out, Life grips his tank back into the line of sight of the tree, heals him up, and that tank, despite being at chip health, is not going to go down. Next, let's look at how he manages the chaos on point C, holding the high ground bridge, trying to interact with the dive coming in on his team. In this instance, ML does charge up the flower a little more than he normally does, looking to target the thing that the dive's coming in on, so the burst of healing comes and arrives as the dive begins its target. But keep in mind how disciplined his position is in both examples here. As he gets flushed out, goes back into the back corner of the map, which is incredibly safe, managing his Reinhardt's health pool, looking to heal him as much as he can, but at the last moment, when it's obvious he's not going to be able to keep him up, Life grips him back. This is draining a lot of time off of the cart and making a huge bait target in the main tank. Playing from this back corner position, the Tree of Life is going to offer some visual coverage to play around, and for the rest of the fight, he's going to maintain an untargetable position and very easily stabilize his team. Normally, you would assume that dive characters are simply stronger on a map like Gibraltar, but playing perfectly as Lifeweaver to bail out a brawler tank to reposition them gives them the type of leap cooldown they wouldn't otherwise have. It can make those characters be far more viable on high ground dominant maps with good Lifeweaver play. The other maps to consider Lifeweaver very strong on, I'd say, is maps with multi-tiered high grounds. Gibraltar, particularly ones where there's more of a set attack and defense dynamic. I think Control, which is very brawly, often is too enclosed on the point for Lifeweaver to be as viable as he could be. You're going to see the biggest benefit when you get instant access to high ground to create a new engagement path. And typically on Control, it's more just like jump on the point. And you're going to see more effect when you can manipulate the positioning battle to out-position a more static enemy team. Lifeweaver is going to be pretty tough to play against a full dive team unless you are perfectly setting up the combo pieces appropriately. If you don't have the right picks on your team, that's when I think you're probably going to have to swap off Lifeweaver. If you're playing with teammates that already have vertical or big mobility anyway, they might not have the other punching power stats to really justify helping them reposition because they do that naturally. Instead, they'd benefit more from direct empowering supports that increase their damage or durability. Guys, let me know what you think about our first Lifeweaver Advanced Guide. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.